Bottom right. Sorry.
Now we're good.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. I'm excited to share my journey that I went through and talk a little bit about CVU Elementary. So I'm excited to share information about my school because we have done so much in this past year. And so I'm excited to share, and I can talk about my school all day long. So if I could, I'm going to be kind of all over, I think, just because I'm excited about it. But so one of the things I wanted to start off with was one of the big ahas for me was this idea about sharing your story, the story of your school, and your SIPSA really is the story. And that was something that when that was kind of during those initial workshops that I attended, it was like, wow, you know, that really made sense to me. That really hit home. And so I liked this quote, everybody has a story and there's something to be learned from every experience. And so I wanted to kind of preface it with, you're going to hear the story of my school today, okay? And a little bit about me. I've been a principal since last year. So I inherited a school that was already in CSI. And so I've only been there a year and a half, you know, and so we've done so much in a year and a half. And I've been an assistant principal since 2017, and a thank you to Dr. Engel because he was very instrumental in me becoming an administrator, so thank you. Yes, thank you. And I was a teacher and after school coordinator in CVUSD, so I've been in the district 20 years, and then I'm a dog mom, and you know, and right now I'm working on my doctorate, so there's a lot going on with me, but I just wanted to kind of give you that picture of me, like I'm a first year principal, like this was a big task to take on. But I wanted to share a little bit about my area because you may not know, but my school is located in Salton City, California, and population 5,155 people. We're in Imperial County. We're 35 miles from Coachella, which is in Riverside County. My school is in Imperial County, but we are overseen by Riverside County. So there's like this area in the middle of like a KWL where I'm like right in that middle part. You know, sometimes Imperial wants us and sometimes Riverside County wants us. And we were once destined to be a resort community, and now we are considered the Lithium Valley. So there's a lot of hope that, you know, this area is going to become, you know, worth a lot of money and people are going to be moving it. Well, they're already moving it in droves, but we'll talk about that. So at my school, we have an enrollment of 661 students. We used to be one of the smallest sites. So it's in people's mind that CVU is tiny. Well, now we're the 6th largest school. So we've grown by leaps and bounds, and I use every inch of my campus, every closet, every nook and cranny. There's someone in there because we just are bursting at the seams. We have 50% of our students are English learners. We have 85% of our students are socioeconomically disadvantaged. We have 6% of students with disabilities. And we actually have the most diverse population of students in that we actually do have a white student population. We have African American students, which is something that's a little unique for CV Unified. Typically, we don't see those other populations. But as you can see, we have a 92% Hispanic or Latino rate. So we have a little bit different of a makeup. And I wanted to share that these pictures were actually drawn by students. So those little guys are from our students. You'll see them. My school is really a magical place. Sometimes it's forgotten, and I think that's something that was part of the story, right? So because we're so remote and we're far away, there was a lot of stigma, like we don't want to be there, it's so far away, it's kind of you're punished when you're put there. There's just a lot of stigma around CVU, and I really wanted to change that mindset. So that was something that I really, from the get-go, I wanted to change that narrative for this school because we have amazing students, amazing staff. So these are just some images from my school. We are very collaborative, so I have my teachers. You see this beautiful rainbow. We really do have a sea view. I mean, it's like $1 million view. It's beautiful. We just have a lot of really good things going on. So you can see me here playing with some students that needed some transformational justice. We need a little time to talk some things out. So one of the things when I was a new principal, and this is actually on my very first day, this picture with my assistant principal, I knew that I needed to learn the community. I needed to sit back and watch and observe and kind of take it all in. I knew I needed to build relationships. That was a big one. And I needed to make connections. And then I received this document called the CVUSD, and I knew I needed to follow it, what it said I needed to do, but I didn't understand it. The way it was written, it was so cloudy. I didn't know where the person that wrote it was trying to go with it. It just seemed like didn't make sense. There were things in there and it was kind of all over the place. So it was really hard to follow. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. And then I'm told, you're eligible for CSI, you have all this money, you're rich. And I was like, yes, right? And I was like, oh, right, I have lots of money. But then there was like, everybody on staff, there was this urgency to buy stuff. They're like sending me links, buy this, buy that, buy it. And I was like, whoa, right? So I said, no, we're gonna stop. I really need, I wanna look at, before I start spending money, I wanna look at what the picture is here. Like, and I knew in my heart, I hadn't been trained yet on things, but I knew I needed to kind of take it easy, slow down, really look at it, because I didn't want to just buy something that was just going to sit on a shelf, right? I didn't want to just go through motions and not have it be effective. So we kind of already talked about how we were eligible for CSI, and one of the biggest ones, what you see here in red, was our chronic absenteeism and our math. Now, upon further investigation, we'll talk a little bit about those two areas and kind of some of the things that we've tried to do differently. Those were the pressing needs, right? I see that we're red on those. Now we're orange in the other two, but red is worse than orange. So we really need to focus there, right? So with this urgency to spend money and to spend a big amount of money, I knew we needed to kind of slow it down. So during the year, like I said, the CVUSD was kind of all over the place. I really didn't understand what the direction was with it. And that pressure to spend money, that pressure to buy a program, that's what I kept being told. You need to buy this, you need to buy that. And then there was this attendance team that was in my CVUSD. But I didn't understand, like, well, what is the attendance team going to do? We just got back from COVID. People are still scared. It was written for people to go into homes and visit families. My teachers were like, no, I'm not doing that. So there was just a lot of things. So I said, you know what, we're putting a pin in that attendance team because we just, right now we don't have the capacity to do that and we really don't have the means to do that. So that was a big chunk of money that was in the CVUSD for that. And so I just said, you know what, we're going to hold off on that for a minute. So we kind of looked at different things. But this was an aha for me. So during those sessions with our COE, with Colleen and Lisa, they started talking about resource inequities, right? And this is actual from the CVUSD, and it says, no resource inequities were identified. And I thought, okay, great, I have none. So we're good. I'm going to move on. But then it does talk about our students with disabilities, how they're performing lower, and our EL students. So there's a little bit about that, but it really wasn't written to meet the needs of those inequities, okay? And I knew I'm writing my CVUSD for the first time. I had all this pressure because I wanted it to be better than the one I had received. And I wanted it to be, and I had helped my previous principals, right? I had helped them, but the habit was that whatever the narrative was here, we just copied and pasted it for the next year, right? That was the habit. And that was something that I caught myself doing. But then through these coaching sessions and practice, it was kind of like, wait a minute, this is my opportunity to tell the story of my school. So as we investigated, as we looked through things, and as we really took a clearer picture of what was going on, we looked at a lot of things. And we had a lot of discussions, and some of them were not very pretty. Our chronic absenteeism rate, right? 61% of our students were chronically absent. And I thought, oh, well, you know what? It must be like the upper grade kids because, they're like older, they're like more jaded. No, it's all low. It's pretty consistent, even my lower grade. So then it's like, oh, those begin to beget new questions, right? So like, is it that our parents don't think K-1-2 is important? Like, oh, they'll catch up later. There's just a lot of questions that came from this. And so as we started having these conversations, that was the aha. I kind of mentioned to you how we're so remote. We went through a lot of riffing for many years, right? And the teachers with low seniority got shipped out to my school. They didn't want to be there. They weren't happy about that change. Many of them, I had a teacher from Ukaipa that got moved there. She drove 3 hours a day to come to work. That was, those are the things that is an inequity, right? that the fact that there's people there that don't want to be there, they're not happy, they're driving so far, they spend more in gas. So there was a lot of things. So talking with leadership team, doing classroom visits was important. So that's where I really started to look at what was really happening, right? So I was in classrooms, I was present. I had to walk around, I had to see what was going on. I had to look for gaps. I had to listen. I listened a lot. I would hear my teachers talking and hear the things that they wanted. And I was taking that all in. I was looking at data and everything, right? Everything became a data point. Surveying staff was a huge one. But this part here, CVU Elementary had 26 TK to 6th grade teachers, 2 special education teachers, 4 intervention teachers, and 1 visual and performing arts teacher. 3 of these positions have been held by long-term substitutes all year. There's an inequity. I had 3 unfilled all year. 33% of my staff were brand new teachers hired in 2021. 33% was brand new. This year I had 7 brand new teachers. But I did retain all of those. So now I'm building, right? Out of the 30 teachers on my staff, 22 out of the 30, so 73% of them were hired since 2015. So again, if you're looking at 2015, we take away like COVID year, because that was like on Zoom and looking all that. I mean, these are all really new teachers, which is awesome. I mean, it's awesome for me. I look at it as an awesome thing. But that also told me that many of them were involuntarily transferred, and many of them had been VAPA teachers at other sites, meaning they never received training. They never received math training. They never received curriculum training on language arts. They didn't get EL trainings. They got VAPA trainings. Right? So that's another inequity. So I'm like, wait, I'm finding all kinds of inequities here because my teachers don't have the skill set. When I'm asking them, do a think, pair, share, they may not have ever been trained in that. They don't know. So this really was telling to me of kind of where I needed to start. I needed to start with my staff. I needed to focus on them. And I needed to build them up because many of them didn't want to be there. Many of them had been shuffled around. They were getting a little bit like, So that's where I really felt I needed to focus. So right now, I'm going to give you a little thinking time. So what are some inequities that you may be encountering where you are? So just think about that for a minute. Like, what are some things that you're thinking about now that I've kind of shown some of mine that could be inequities? And I mean, you don't have to share, just kind of think about it, process it for a second. Because this was a big one for me. This was part of the story, right? Anybody wants to share one?
I can actually share about where my kids attend.
Okay.
So my kids are in the dual language immersion program. And so a possible inequity is that because it's a specialized program, there are specific resources that flow from the district for supporting those teachers, including maybe even technological resources such as specific programs to support dual language learners that creates not a two-tiered system, but separate systems that without intentionality could at least create perceptions of inequity.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So again, when we talked about, as you saw in my SIPSA, we had none. Well, I've already uncovered a lot, right? Just in my viewing of how things are going and how things are working. And also, and I don't have the data to back it up, but there was a high turnover rate every year, right? The minute that there was openings at another site in the district closer to home, those people would transfer out, you get a whole new staff. So the previous principal, he actually came to the site where I was an assistant principal, so he was my boss. He came from CVU and he was like, oh yeah, every year I had a brand new staff. It was a brand new staff every single year. I had to start over every single year, start over every year. So knowing that, I said, okay, my mission was to change that narrative and I want people to want to come to CVU. And this year, I had 1 teacher transfer in. So it's already started, right? So it's building that, like, we are an amazing team. You want to be here. Who cares about that little 45-minute drive? You want to come here, right? You'll love it. So we started to build capacity by offering professional development. In our district, we have 2 PD hours a month that's already built into the teacher workday. But I wanted more, and I wanted to do more because I had the money to do that. But this is an example of our walkthrough matrix that it's actually from the district. So there was identified look fors for different subject areas, and administration would go in and walk, and we started collecting that data, and we started looking at, and again, this is kind of end of the year, so things are looking pretty good, but we could see that we need some support in EL. It's not at 100%. We need some support in math. There wasn't a lot of math strategies. Technology, we needed some support there. So it kind of helped us to kind of focus like where we were seeing gaps. We also took the look fors and we developed how they were related to AVIT, how they were related to the California teaching standards, and what they were. What does that mean? So we did a lot of training about that. And then again, those 3 rocks that Karen talked about, we did activities with our teachers where we talked about what are the things that you're doing already that fit under those 3 rocks. So we just had a lot of conversations about those teaching practices. What were we seeing? What are you comfortable with? What do you not know about? What do you need more support in? That was where those surveys came in. I also knew that I needed to build my leadership team because, again, having that revolving door, the leadership team was never like a cohesive. They were more used to like, okay, what's on the calendar? What's upcoming? What fundraiser are we going to do? That wasn't, that needed to go, right? That can be done in email. So it was, how do we build the leadership team to have those conversations about data and looking at data and where we need to go? Administrative coaching and learning. So it was going to those trainings. I think I had perfect attendance, didn't I? I did. Because I was like, I've got to learn this. Like, I really need to, I really am taking this serious. I really want to learn. And so again, having data chats. The school had never done data chats, and I had to figure out a schedule to make it happen where I could meet with the teachers. And I tried to meet with them at least twice a month. It was hard, but I tried. Didn't always happen. So when they talk about evidence-based interventions, I kept hearing that, right? And it was like, go to the What Works Clearinghouse and pick something there that looks at attendance. I would go to the RCUE attendance Zooms that they would have, where the people are highlighting some of the things they've done. And so I was like, always asking Karen, well, can I build a laundromat on my campus? Because, and so there was some no's, and then there was some yeses. But, I was trying to think out of the box, right? I had this money to spend. So where that came from, looking at evidence-based interventions, the work of Hattie, we really decided math was going to be our focus, right? We were going to focus on math. That was our lowest area. Because of COVID and because of where we were in that time period, I felt like attendance I really couldn't tackle just yet because the message was stay home if you're sick, right? If you have a cough, stay home. It wasn't it was too hard a thing to tackle then. So I felt like, let's focus on math. That's something where we can really make a difference. So we had a math focus. We partnered with UCI Math. Our focus was going to be on number talks, problem solving. We also decided to really focus on thinking maps as a strategy because many of my teachers had never been trained. The last training in our district had been like 10 years before. And many of them, like I told you, were new teachers. So they never received that training. They didn't know what thinking maps were. But we knew that we want to support our English learners. That was another area identified. So we thought this would be a really good scaffold, a strategy that we could focus on. So we focused on thinking maps. We also refocused the attendance team. So we have a different lens for that this year. And then we really wanted to focus on building capacity in our school leadership. As I mentioned, that was another goal. And then my teacher retention plan. So those were the big ahas that came out of a lot of those inequities that we saw. So again, looking at our comprehensive needs assessment, this was last year's, the beginning of it. This isn't the whole thing. You can see there's some gaps we didn't get to. And then this is this year's. You can see there's a lot more knowledge because there's a lot more knowledge now, and we're pulling a lot more data, and we're seeing a lot of we're more comfortable with the tool. Does that make sense? So you can kind of see the difference in how we've grown a little bit. We also did a lot of initiative mapping, and we still continue to do a lot of initiative mapping. So this was actually our absenteeism initiatives. You can see all the initiatives we were doing, and we really looked at like what's working, and so we did away with some of those things. They just weren't working anymore. So that was really helpful. We involved the team in initiative mapping on some of the initiatives for ELA, and we decided to get rid of some things and start some other things. So we really had to look at things in a new way. be honest with ourselves about some of those things. You know, like for instance, we had bought IXL and some teachers loved it, but not everybody was using it. And it was like, well, what's the purpose? If not everybody's using it and it's not driving our data and it's not, you know, we don't have evidence to show that it's working. But, you know, and we did. We got rid of it. Some teachers were upset, but now we have iReady and they really like that. So anyway, so initiative mapping has been a big one and we continue to do it. So here's me and my team. We just did this one like a month ago, right? Or a few weeks ago. And I'm happy to have teachers that are now part of the process. And this was actually from one of our staff meetings and they're actually doing an initiative map of our ELA program. And so we're using this now to write our next CVUSD and kind of looking at what are we doing and what do we like. So another little time for you to think, what are some ways that you monitor programs for progress throughout the year? And so for me, you know, this was something that hadn't been a practice. And even as an assistant principal, I don't ever recall us looking at the effectiveness of our after school intervention program. We never talked about it. We did it to be like, yeah, we do it. Look at us. We have an after school intervention program. We're amazing. But we didn't know if it was effective. Nobody ever really looked at it. We didn't really monitor that. So that was the big aha for me, is like really looking and being honest with the things we're doing. Are they really helping? Do we have the data to show that? And if not, we need to try something else. And that's something I tell my staff all the time is, okay, remember, that's how we used to do it, but were we doing well then? No, so we need to think about it in a new way. And then they're like, ah, got it, yes. So what are some ways that you can monitor, or you have been, or have you? I mean, maybe this is a piece that this is where you need to refocus. This is just to ponder.
I want everybody to say we're using the amazing, CVUSD monitoring and evaluation tool that Lisa and Colleen have been sharing across the land. I'm not hearing any of those.
Maybe they're just thinking.
Yeah, they're thinking.
They just haven't said it out loud. So again, I think for my journey, that was like the huge piece of it, was to be like, and you know what, having the permission to say, this isn't working, like, and we need to readjust, and that's okay. That's part of the process. All right, so our CVUSD annual evaluation, and then the plan, do, study, act cycle. So that was a big one for us. A big aha was the plan, do, study, act. So this is an example of one that we did for this year for our UCI math. Like I mentioned, that was one of our focuses. And so we're in the process of going through this, and we're still looking at how this is, how it's helping us, but we are seeing a lot of growth in these areas. So we're saying, hey, some of these things are working. So my challenges, as I kind of mentioned, was the climate and the culture of my school. We were in a climate and culture of kind of despondency. Like people just felt like, oh, here comes another administrator. They're going to be gone, in a couple of years. They'll, and oh, I'm going to leave as soon as I can, that kind of a thing. And so that wasn't a really healthy environment. That feeling of hopeless, our kids are so low, kind of get stuck in that mindset, right? The other thing was, oh, nobody ever comes out here. Nobody ever comes and checks on us. Nobody ever comes out here. That's the thing they say a lot. And I'm trying to change that. So, Erin, come on out. So the inequities was a big challenge. That research-based interventions, what does that mean? Because you have this money and you're like, okay, I really want to spend this, but really being thoughtful about it and not just buying something just to put it on the paper that you did it, but really having that background. And then parent support is still a challenge. I'm not going to lie. We're in an area that's very interesting, and our parents, sometimes they're out there remote for a reason. Anyway, okay, so we're still working on the parent piece. That's good. That's gonna be an ongoing one. So the highlights was, now we have a renewed and engaged staff. Through my teacher retention plan, I have retained 84% of my staff. So I only really lost 2 teachers, and I don't know if I did the math right, but I lost 2 teachers, and so I call that a success, right? That no one wanted to transfer out, and I got somebody that wanted to transfer in. That was a big one for me. We improved climate and culture through many different ways, But I think they bought in. You know, they saw a hope, they saw a plan, they saw a new direction. They feel validated, they feel empowered. When, you know, we meet as a team and they see things are working, they're re-energized. They're excited to see the data. In fact, they're so excited to give iReady now, you know, that they do it like the first day that it opens, you know, where I'm like, whoa, and maybe we wouldn't want to do it right when we come back from Christmas break. Maybe we want to give it a But they were super excited because they want to see how well they're doing. So they have this really renewed hope. And then all the district support we got and the support from RCV, it was immense, you know, and anytime I call and ask questions, they answer my questions and they just give a lot of support. So thank you so much for that. So up here shows our growth from 2019. Our chronic absenteeism is bad. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but you know it's bad everywhere. So that's not just an us problem, but we are better in ELA and math than we were pre-pandemic. So that is a huge thing for us. We're so excited. Yes. And then, you know, we still have a lot of work to do. We're now ATSI. So now we have a new goal, right? A new focus, and we're gonna refocus a little bit to get out of there. But I wanted to kind of highlight, this slide kind of shows all the things. So this is our current iReady data. So you can see from fall to winter, we've moved so much more. We're more green, way more green now than we had before. We see a lot more strategies being used in the classroom. So, you know, EL strategies, a lot more thinking maps because we trained our entire staff on thinking maps. I did a whole week of, I called it my CVU Summer Spectacular. And we did a whole week of training, and I had 28 out of my 34 teachers that came every single day during the summer. Now they did get paid really well, but they still came, and that was a testament to them wanting that. We do, and that was them at the training. And I even did it at a hotel just to make them feel bad. So they came. We're talking about best practices, and we're really looking at data and those, like the number talks. Now we have like a way to really measure, are they effective? Is that strategy helping us? Our intervention program, which happens during the day, the kids are exiting out of intervention and they're so excited, they're celebrated for it. We have STEM coming, and we've been doing a lot with science, and that's our new focus too, is adding in that STEM and that inquiry-based learning. And then this is an example of two teachers. We do a lot of fun activities for that climate culture piece. So this was New Year bingo. And so they're adding their name to their bingo board. And it's honestly things I want to see them doing, and then they're doing them, right? So like it says like, I taught a number talk today, and then they go put their name on it, you know, and it's things that I want them to do, but they're having fun doing it. So that's part of that climate and culture piece, and they were excited. And I'm like, you're really on the floor? Oh yeah, I gotta put my name down here. Okay. So they were excited, but there's like this just renewed sense of excitement. And just talking so much about how we're doing, and they're so excited to see that forward progress. So again, to hit the points, know your story. The story is the hugest piece, and tell your story through your SIPSA. Know your data, collect multiple sources of information, write your SIPSA to speak about your school so that anybody else that comes in understands what you were trying to do and where you're going, and having that clear, concise plan. And then use those PDSA cycles and involve your teams in that. You know, it shouldn't just be a principal's decision. It should be a team effort so that everybody buys in. And I think that's the huge piece, is inviting those people in and getting your leadership talking in that language. And so here's my last question. What story do you need to tell about your school that hasn't been told yet? So think about that. That's a really good reflection question. So, because every school has a story, right? And that's a big one for me. I wanted to be able to tell the story of my school so that, again, we're not out of the woods, but we are, that to get out of CSI was a huge one, because I gave myself 3 years, and we're in a year and a half in and we got out. So I'm excited about that. And thank you very much. Thank you for listening about our little school. That
was a great story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you want to come visit, come on out.
We keep saying every time we go out there, we need to go to CVU, and then the end of the day comes, and We added an extra 2 days to be able to come and visit.
There you go. And Yami has come and she's gotten to work with my teachers. Yes, she is. She's there.
So we'll open it up for just some informal conversation or questions if you have any for CVU, and take a little break, and then John will be presenting on behalf of San Jacinto shortly after that. So feel free to ask these two ladies any questions you might have, and we'll reconvene at 10:45 and turn it over to John from San Jacinto.